What's up, guys? My name is Stephen Guardani, 5 Tool Sports Science. Today, we're going to be talking about why you're not throwing harder despite working hard. All right. Okay, first thing, hard work does not always equal smart work, right? We get a lot of guys that they're putting in a lot of effort, but effort alone does not guarantee that you're going to be increasing velocity. And that can mean that you're working in the wrong places too. Like if you are a really strong guy, but you don't have a lot of movement efficiency, elasticity, or pitching mechanics, that is going to be working against you, okay? So pitching velocity is going to be an efficient energy flow through the kinetic chain. When we can transfer energy through the kinetic chain efficiently, that is when you're going to be throwing the ball the hardest for your genetic potential, okay? There's many variables to improving energy flow. You need a clear plan, right? You need intent on what to target, why you target it, and then how you are going to fix it. So you got to have a plan, okay? Next point. This is huge. This is getting assessed. This is where most guys, they're not understanding what they need to work on because they're not getting assessed. You don't know what to fix when you don't know what to fix, right? Like if you're just throwing stuff at the wall and hoping it sticks, that's going to be a really time-consuming process. So you could be working really hard, but you might be working really hard on the wrong things. And that's why an assessment is so important. An assessment allows you to see what your strengths and weaknesses are, what you need to improve, all right? So you need to identify flaws in speed and power, identify flaws in your overall athleticism, how you're sprinting, how you're jumping on one leg, how you're jumping on two legs. Look for areas that are going to be low-hanging fruits that you need to improve upon, all right? You need to look at your pitching mechanics, okay? We got to look at hip to shoulder separation. We got to look at back leg acceleration, front leg deceleration. We got to look at what your arm path is doing. We have to identify flaws in your pitching mechanics that you can improve. All right, and then mobility efficiency, how well you can move through specific movements. Like if we're looking at, how well you can pistol squat, how well you can go into a back bridge, how well you can thoracically rotate, how well you can internally rotate your hips. There's so many things to look at in mobility that is going to transfer to how you are moving on the mound and improving that energy flow and being able to transfer that energy through the kinetic chain more efficiently. All right, and then finally, just global strength and arm strength. So we want to look at, global strength is really things in like the big compound lifts. When we're talking about like deadlifts, we're talking about, split squats. We're talking about just regular squats. We're talking about bench press. We're talking, rows. Everything that's like a compound lift in strength and conditioning, there is benefit to being globally strong in those lifts. And then arm strength is looking more fine-tuned. What's happening is we're getting a lot of guys that we're building a lot of athleticism, we're building a lot of power, but the arm isn't strong enough to handle the amount of force and torque that you are putting on the arm, which in my opinion is what's leading to a lot of the injuries. Pairing that with poor mechanical efficiency, and then we're all trying to throw the ball 90, 95, 100 miles per hour, and we are not measuring and looking at arm strength as closely as we should be, and really emphasizing that in our training to, build as, I don't like the word bulletproof because I don't think like we're going to be able to completely eliminate the injury risk, but we'll be able to give ourselves the best shot possible of keeping that arm healthy if we can maintain a lot of strength in the arm. All right, and we'll touch more on that in a second. Okay. So here we go. We got individualized training plans. Okay, so address your limitations, not just going with generic programming. All right, so like if most strength and conditioning coaches or most coaches or most pitching coaches, like if we're just doing plug and play programs, like the same program for every guy, you have a PDF and it's like, here's a 16-week training program and I'm going to have every single guy doing this same 16-week training program. Well, that's not individualized, right? So we have to get more individualized in our training to target the specific weaknesses and limitations that each athlete has. All right, so some of the focus areas that we're going to look at is going to be single leg strength and power, unilateral leg strength and power. All right, we want to look at some examples of those: lunges, split squats, plyometrics, single leg plyometrics, strength and speed exercises. So think of things like Olympic lifts, like barbell jumps, like like a trap bar split stance jumps, something that you're adding some weight to, so it's more of a speed strength exercise. All right, then rotational power. All right, so we want to build rotational power through med balls, water bags, heavy rotational strength. So think of things like cable machines. And then pairing that with more power exercises, think things like a Kaiser machine, a Proteus, something like that. And then deceleration exercises. So working on being able to decelerate the front leg and decelerate the trunk is equally as important as being able to accelerate the trunk as fast as we can. Okay, then mobility and joint stability. All right, we're looking at ankles, hips, spine rotation, flexion and extension, and then the shoulders, covering just some of the big points. If we have any breakdown in your kinetic chain, like if you have really crappy ankles and you don't have a lot of dorsiflexion, chances are when I watch you move, you're not going to be able to move that well. The foot and the ankle complex, like we're learning a lot about how it's affecting you when you're jumping, how it's affecting you when you're sprinting. There's not a ton of research yet. There's some research on it for throwing, like in terms of pitching, and they are finding, there is connection with it. But we do know from the jumping and the sprinting, like if you have weak ankles, if you have a poor range of motion there, it's going to affect how well you can jump, how well you can sprint. And we know that harder throwers are going to be better athletes. So if we can develop you from the bottoms of your feet all the way to the end of your fingertips, you're going to be able to improve that energy flow, okay? And so we need to look for any mobility and joint stability issues throughout the entire body. Arm strength. Again, we kind of briefly talked on it. Just looking at external rotation strength, internal rotation strength, horizontal abduction strength, and then grip strength, just giving us a baseline idea of how strong that arm is. As you're transferring energy, your body might be able to produce a ton of force, but we're putting more torque on the arm the harder we throw. Okay, so if that arm is not strong enough to handle how much force and torque that you're about to put on it, it's going to start breaking down. So that's kind of like a two-edged sword for training. It's going to help you throw harder, but it's also going to help you keep you healthier or give you a better shot to stay healthier. Okay. All right, and mechanical efficiency. All right, so clean sequencing equals more velocity and less stress. So that's kind of what we're talking about. The sequencing, energy flow, those are kind of just buzzwords that people use. What we're talking about is just good pitching mechanics, the ability to transfer energy from the ground all the way up through the kinetic chain out to your arm. Okay, so some of the big things, like this is a very broad topic, but some of the big things are going to be hip to shoulder separation, okay, back leg acceleration, front leg deceleration, and arm path, right? So if I get up on the mound here, some of the things we'll look at, like how are you loading your back leg as you're moving down the mound? How are you, capturing that momentum? People call it the drift. How are you going from leg lift and riding your hips down the mound, getting into a good back leg position, getting into a good force vector position to set yourself up in like a power position to produce force, right? Then the acceleration of it, we're going to look at how well that you can use angular velocity, which is going to be the rotational velocity of the pelvis, okay? So how well are you transferring from that load position and then using the rotation from that back hip, okay? Then the hip to shoulder separation, how much hip to shoulder separation are you landing in, creating that stretch through your diagonal line? So if we drew a line all the way up to your arm, how much stretch can we create in this position? Okay, and that's different from guy to guy. There's length tension relationship. Some guys, they're not going to get as much stretch. Think a guy like Paul Skeens, he's not getting crazy stretch. But then you look at a guy like Aroldis Chapman, and he's getting like freakish stretch. So a lot of that is going to depend on your length and tension relationship, how much stretch you need to get to throw harder, okay? And then front leg, yeah, we're talking about front leg deceleration, just how well you're able to stop that forward momentum, and then transfer that rotational and linear force back into the trunk and launching it into the baseball. And then the final point is just arm path. You got to have a clean arm path. So you're transferring that energy from the trunk into the arm, if as efficiently as possible to transfer force onto the baseball. So those are all things that we got to look for in your mechanics. All right. Nutrition for muscle and recovery, okay? Training without fueling equals poor progress and recovery. So this is one I harp on with guys all the time, that you need to be eating right. This is like one of the biggest ones, and it really separates the men's from the boys in their training. It's one of the biggest hanging fruits because we got to build lean muscle mass, and this is one of the highest correlations that we're going to get to getting you throwing harder. And most guys just do not want to do this, okay? So we need to focus on building lean muscle mass. We can see a chart how lean muscle mass correlates all the way up to the MLB. Okay, this is from high school down here all the way up to the MLB level. All right, so a direct correlation. We need to focus on protein, carbs, and fats. All right, we got protein, carbs, fats, and then total calories. So you need to know how to eat for your body type, how many calories you need to be eating, and you got to be going to war with that, bro. This is one of the biggest things that guys need to focus on, and they're really not focusing on it. And then the final point is just hydration and sleep. I mean, it's the unsexy stuff. Everybody's heard this before. You got to hydrate. You got to be sleeping. You can't be up playing Fortnite all night long, guys, or whatever kids are playing these days. Modern Warfare. I don't know, Brian, what are people playing these days, man? We don't really know. Just all kinds of games. You guys are playing too many games, man. All right. Step 5, be patient and train smarter, okay? We're going to talk about throwing programs must target specific deficiencies in your mechanics. So again, going back to that mechanical efficiency, finding the areas that you need to improve in your mechanics, your throwing program needs to be working on that. We're going to use drills like water bags, throwing constraint drills, med balls, stuff that is going to identify, hey man, like you don't rotate your hip well, or hey, you're not getting a lot of hip to shoulder separation, or hey, you suck at decelling your front leg. I shouldn't say you suck, sorry guys. You need to get better at decelling your front leg. Okay, working on that in your throwing program, okay? And then use data, subjective and objective. So subjective would be like how you're feeling for the day. Like if your arm feels like crap, hey, we need to use that and maybe not go into a really heavy throw day. Like it would be, you know, hey, maybe we're gonna rest a little bit today. And then objective data, things like dynamometers, looking at arm strength, velocity-based training to measure bar speeds, jump tests, and mocap, right? We're using data to understand when to push. So think like velo days, like if everything is, the subjective data is lining up, you feel good, and the objective data is lining up, your arm strength levels look good, you know, you're coming, you do your jumps for the day, you're explosive. It's like, hey man, we can push today. Your body is healthy, it's feeling good, we can push for some velo. And then on the other end of that, when you feel like crap and the numbers are showing crap, hey, we need to rest today. So you need to know when to push and when to rest. And I think that's something that in baseball, we're really not good at that at this point. Everybody just knows, hey, I need to gain velocity. Therefore, I need to be, you know, long tossing or weighted ball programs or doing this or doing that. And we're really not following the data as closely as we should be, okay? And all right, final message. So mechanics, assessments, training, recovery, nutrition, it all matters, guys. You need to fix the right things. You need to have a plan, okay? And you need to train smart, okay? Velocity follows when everything works in sync. When all of these pieces are coming together, if you're hitting all the right nails on the head, you're gonna gain velocity, okay? And here's the kicker of all this though, it's time. This takes time. It's simple, it's not easy. Everybody kind of goes into this, especially when you're trying to gain velocity. You're like, I need velocity now. I need it fast. But you need time to develop it. That's why the earlier you can start this stuff, the better, because it's going to give you a larger scope of time to reach your goals. Everybody wants to think velocity goes like this. It doesn't. It kind of ebbs and flows as you kind of ride up the hill, okay? So if your end goal is 90 miles per hour and you're starting at 80, it's gonna look more like this. It's not gonna look like this. And in between that, it takes time. All right, so that's all, everything I got for you guys. Like, subscribe, and follow. And appreciate you guys watching. All right, see you.